We're taking a look at the Olympus XZ1. You can get this camera for between $500 and $550, depending where you're shopping. Now at $500, $550, obviously higher end of the kind of point-and-shoot line. It really does have some features that you would find in a higher-end SLR. I'm really thinking an ideal application for this is a professional photographer just kind of throws it in their kit bag as a backup, or just to grab a quick shot in a low-light situation, which we'll get to in a moment. Or even in their weekend, kind of their personal shooter. Or anyone who wants some of the power of a digital SLR without the bulk. So now we can turn the camera on, and we can see the lens cap doesn't actually affix. There's both a good and a bad thing. So basically, it makes it so that when you put the lens out, the lens cap will actually pop off, and it would actually be attached here, so it doesn't fall off. But it also makes it so that if you, for example, throw it in your pocket, you could actually expose the lens that way. Not such a good thing. Now you can see the styling of the camera is quite nice. It really is a very, very wide and bright lens. 4 times optical zoom on this lens. f1.8. So like I say, a really, really fast and bright lens. So really ideal for shooting in lower light situations. So I mentioned being on the high end of the consumer digital cameras. Some of the features from the really great Olympus pen cameras have actually made their way onto this camera, which is really nice to see. So if we take a look on the back here, we have access to what are called art modes. So here we can see some of the different art modes. Take a second to fire up. So here we have pop art, which really makes your colors come to life, really bright and vibrant. Soft focus, which is basically like smearing Vaseline on the lens without actually having to smear Vaseline on the lens. Grainy film gives kind of a throwback feel by, you can actually really see the film grain in here. Black and white image, obviously. Here we have pinhole, which basically puts a halo around and kind of boosts up the contrast to give that pinhole camera effect. Diorama, which basically makes, if you're shooting down on a scene from on high, you'll get a very kind of toy-like quality, makes it look like a diorama, as per the name of the shooting mode. And dramatic, which really kind of makes your contrast pop. So if we select the scene mode here, we can actually change the scene mode by using the front-mounted dial, which is a nice feature. So this front-mounted dial, this is context sensitive. It's a aperture dial for the most part, but depending what scene mode we're in or what adjustment we're trying to make, it can change to be shutter speed or aperture or change scene mode or change the art filter. So it's really great because we get really quick access without actually having to fiddle through menus. So until I figured that out, I was getting quite frustrated because I was trying to figure out how to actually change some of the scene modes and stuff without actually having to go in here, turn this dial back, and access here. So it really is nice and simple. So if we go into scenes, we'll see a few of the scene selections that we have. Now, if you're a professional photographer type or a really kind of advanced prosumer photographer, scene modes might be of interest to you. Probably not. But one of the strengths of this camera is that we could actually hand it off to someone who's not quite so savvy. Either throw it into auto mode up here, or throw it into scene mode, and basically give someone who isn't that savvy with camera a much better chance of taking a decent shot. So here's low light mode. So one thing we mentioned is the camera's really great in low light situations thanks to the wide lens and the wide ISO range. We can also store some custom modes, so we can change the aperture and shutter speed, either aperture priority, which we see here. And now the front lens barrel dial is actually adjusting the f-stop. Or we can throw it into shutter priority mode. Select a shutter speed here with that same dial, and then the aperture will be selected. Or we can go into custom, fiddle around with some settings, and find a few custom settings that we like to use, and then we can actually change through them using the dial here. Now, the hot shoe is the same accessory port that you'll see on the Olympus pen. So all of the Olympus pen accessories will work, including the recently announced macro light. So basically, it's 2 little kind of lights on an antenna that really give you, much more light right in front of the lens without actually a flash throw. Also, things like the Bluetooth adapter that lets you send photos to your smartphone, geotagging, and all that kind of stuff. Now, as indicated right here, the camera also shoots HD video. Not full 1080p HD, 720p HD at 30 frames per second. But on the back here, we see we have a dedicated button that lets us access video recording mode. Hit that, and we're immediately shooting. So that's a nice touch. We can pretty much instantly switch between the different modes. We can shoot a whole bunch of pictures, quickly snap into video recording mode. We also, on the side here, have an HDMI out, so you'll actually need to purchase the separate HDMI cable that we'll use. It kind of looks like a display port here. This one is for charging and also for AV out. So if you want to see some examples of some of the shots the XZ1 is capable of taking, we'll put a link to a really extensive review